You'd be so easy to.
Easy to Kill was written in 1938, and it's a Miss Marple novel without Miss Marple, is how I would describe it. And by that I mean that it has a village setting, and there are a couple of spinster characters who are very intuitive, very shrewd, have a strong moral sense, and are just nosy enough to notice when something is wrong. And they also employ Miss Marple's methods of looking at parallels in behavior and how people behave in one way. Can give you an indication of how someone else may behave who is similar. The story itself, it starts out very interesting, and it draws you right in. It involves a young man named Luke Fitzwilliam. He's our hero, kind of the protagonist of the story, and he is on a train. He's just returned to England from living out of the country for years, and he shares a compartment with this old lady who reminds him of his aunt. Now, this kindly old spinster lady is kind of our first type of Miss Marple, and her name is Lavinia Fullerton in the American version of the novel, and she's on her way to Scotland Yard, and because, as she puts it, there've been too many deaths in her village, and she's just figured out who's been responsible for all of these deaths, and she gets it down to what decides it for her is the look on the murderer's face. She noticed that this person had an expression on their face, and they would make this expression toward a person, and then a couple days later that person would be dead. Ms. Fullerton never makes it to Scotland Yard. She, in the course of the conversation, she talks about her suspicions. She never says who. She just talks about some of the people in her village. And her whole reason for going to Scotland Yard is because she suspects that the village doctor is going to be the next victim. And she wants to protect him because she believes him to be a very good person. As I say, she never gets to Scotland Yard because she is killed in a hit-and-run accident. Luke figures this out the next day as it's in the newspaper. He recognizes the name. 2 days later, he's looking in the paper, and there is a notice of a doctor who has died of blood poisoning, and he happens to be a doctor in the very village that the old lady was speaking about. And the name of the village is, I believe, Witchwood under Ash. And this village has a lot of folklore surrounding it, history of witchcraft, and so Luke decides he wants to investigate this. And so he decides to go there and pretend to be someone's long-lost distant cousin, and he tells them that he is writing a book about witchcraft and folklore in English country villages. And so he figures that would be a good way to get into some of the other ideas of spiritualism, and he can ask about recent deaths without appearing like he's investigating a crime. So he goes there, he meets this woman who he's pretending to be cousins with. Her name is Bridget, and she's described as a witchy type woman, or a bewitching type woman. She's got long, beautiful, dark hair, and every time he sees her, the wind picks up and it blows her hair all over the place. And he falls instantly in love. Unfortunately, she's engaged to one of the largest landowners in the area. His name is Lord Easterfield, and Lord Easterfield's quite a bit older, and she's his secretary, and it's quite obvious that she is marrying him for his money and for the stability that life with him would provide. She doesn't make a secret of that. She's quite frank about it, in fact, and you get the sense that even her husband understands. Now, these murders that Lavinia Fullerton was going to Scotland Yard about are the types of crimes that would not be seen as murder, and they haven't been, in fact, by the people in the town, which is why they've been allowed to go on as long as they have. And they involve a young boy who fell out of a window or was pushed out of a window, a drunken villager who fell off of a bridge and kind of drowned in some mucky, muddy water. And we have a young girl who was in service in a home, and one night she accidentally drinks this hat polish by mistake instead of her cough medicine or some kind of medicine for a cold, and she poisons herself. And then the doctor gets a cut and ends up dying a few days later of blood poisoning. So we have quite a list of things, and that's where our title comes from, because Miss Fullerton says, when Luke challenges her, he says it seems like it would be a little hard for someone to do that many murders in a village and get away with it. And she said, well, no, it's easy to kill if you're not suspected. And she said, and this person is the person you would least expect. So we get all this tantalizing information, and then she's killed before we can get any more information from her. Some of the motifs that go through the story, of course, witchcraft is an important one, and kind of spiritualism and otherworldliness. There's a rather odd character who is he's a single man. He's described as being a little effeminate. He runs a curio shop, and he's a very important character. Mr. Ellsworthy, he's described as an arty, disreputable keeper of an antique shop whose odd tastes include strange midnight rituals in Witch's Meadow. So he's holding these kind of orgiastic get-togethers out in the woods at night, and so people kind of think he's very strange. We also have another spinster who was a friend of Miss Fullerton's, and her name is Honoria Wainfleet, and she kind of also takes on a Miss Marple type role in that she's very shrewd. She figures out right away, as does Bridget, that Luke is in the village investigating something, that something's amiss, and so she becomes a rather important character to this novel as well. As far as some of the other ideas that come out of it, marriage is talked about again here, and what makes the ideal marriage. Do you choose, do you marry for money or do you marry for love? We also have juxtaposed against the witchcraft idea is a rigid kind of Old Testament idea of judgment and retribution, because Lord Easterfield begins to believe that all these people who are dying have died because they've crossed him in some way, and it's kind of either God or Providence or something, some force exacting justice, and so that plays an interesting role as well in the story. Now, the novel, it kind of shares a similarity to the ABC murders, because it seems like a serial killer is at loose and is killing all of these people, and they're trying to find some reason why these people are being killed. These people whose lives really don't cross that much, why they're being killed or chosen as victims. And this is an idea that's going to be further developed in a novel, two novels away from this one, which is called And Then There Were None. That's the American title of it. And that's another one where someone is exacting some kind of rigid justice against people who were guilty of some crime. In this case, most of these people, most of the victims here, were just annoying sort of characters. And Then There Were None, we'll find that the victims there have a few more skeletons in their closet. Because there are so many fantastic novels that Christie's writing at this time, I think Easy to Kill tends to get a little bit eclipsed by the success of the others. Still, I think it's a strong novel. I liked it better than Hercule Poirot's Christmas. I give it a 4.5. I think it's fantastic.
You'd be